If God had meant for you to touch your toes, he would have put them on your knees. That's the thought for the day. Well, I think it's very appropriate that we sing a song. Since it's raining a little bit, sing Showers of Blessing, okay? Yeah, I looked at the forecast and it seems true. Okay, ready to go? There shall be showers of blessing. This is the promise of love. There shall be seasons refreshing, sent by the Savior above. Showers of blessing, showers of blessing we need. Mercy drops round us are falling, but for the showers we plead. There shall be showers of blessing, precious reviving again, over the hills and the valleys, sound of abundance of rain. Showers of blessing, showers of blessing we need. Mercy drops round us are falling, but for the showers we plead. There shall be showers of blessing, send them upon us, O Lord. Grant to us now a refreshing, come and now honor thy word. Showers of blessing, showers of blessing we need. Mercy drops round us are falling, but for the showers we plead. Oh, you sound so good this morning. Both of you.
I have an announcement.
You have an announcement?
Yes. Army's playing West Virginia at 4 o'clock today in football.
Oh, wow.
They're going to grab that Mountaineer mascot and jerk the tail on the coonskin cat.
Wow. Do you know what channel it's on?
ESPN.
ESPN. Okay. 4 o'clock. Well, I have a little thing I want to read to you this morning. This is the English language for the verbally insane. This is something to think about now, okay? Verbally insane. We'll begin with a box, and the plural is boxes. But the plural of ox becomes oxen, not oxes. One fowl is a goose, but 2 are called geese. Yet the plural of moose should never be meese. You may find a lone mouse or a nest full of mice, yet the plural of house is houses, not pice. If the plural of man is always called men, why shouldn't the plural of pan be called pen? If I speak of my foot and show you my feet, and I give you a boot, would a pair be called beat? If one is a tooth and a whole set are teeth, why shouldn't the plural of boot be called beef? Then one may be that, and 3 would be those. Yet hat in the plural would never be hose. And the plural of cat is cats, not codes. We speak of a brother and also of brethren. But though we say mother, we never say brethren. Then the masculine pronouns are he, his, and him. But imagine the feminine, she, shiz, and shin. It's a crazy language. I've been told that English is a hard language to learn from people from other countries. Those are a few of the reasons why right there.
Sure.
All righty. Reminder that Jeff Petty is going to be teaching next week. And birthdays, we have a couple of birthdays coming up that you all need to remember. Walter Sanson's birthday is Sunday. So if you get a chance, give him a call, send him a card, or go by and wave to him, or do something. But Walter Sanson is having a birthday this Sunday. Walter, by the way, was in the hospital over Christmas. He was in the hospital for 5 days, and he went on the 21st and was released on Christmas Day, the 25th, in the middle of a snowstorm. So remember Walter in your prayers. He was in there for COPD and some other problems that he's having problems breathing. So please remember Walter, and please remember Marion, because she's probably getting worn down taking care of him. So remember Marion in your prayers as well. Also, Carol Richardson, I believe, is having a birthday, so remember her as well. Let's see. I think hers is Wednesday. This coming Wednesday is Carol Richardson's birthday. So, before I do prayer requests, other prayer requests, I'd like to tell you a true story. This really happened. This is no joke. This is a story that really happened. And it happened to me about 10 years ago, or thereabouts. But I was sitting in a doctor's office, waiting to see the doctor for my appointment. And I struck up a conversation with the gentleman who was sitting close to me. Before the pandemic, we could talk. But we were sitting there and we were having a good conversation. We talked for 5 minutes or so. Then all of a sudden, he gets up, stands up, and walks right in front of me and says, "You know what? I'm living in a fog." What do you say? I just didn't know what to say. And he said, "You know what? I really am. I'm living in a fog." And then he gets a big smile on his face. He says, "I'm living in the favor of God." Fog, favor of God. He smiles and walks out. That is a true story. And one of the best testimonies you could ever hear in your life. Living in the favor of God.
What's his name, Gabriel?
No. I think it was Jim.
No angels there.
All righty. Let's do prayer requests. Remember the Meredith family. Dick Meredith passed away. Some of you may know Pat. And her children, her 2 daughters. Granddaughters, yeah. 1 daughter, 2 granddaughters. But Dick Meredith passed away a few days ago, and the service was this Saturday. So remember the Meredith family in your prayers. I continue to remember Alita Dolan. I talked with her last night. She's doing better, but she had another fall. And she's using one of these rollators with wheels, kind of like a walker. But she was at the refrigerator and she turned around and lost her balance and fell on her shoulder. No broken bones, but her shoulder is really hurting a lot. So she's going to be seeing a doctor in the next week or so in regards to her shoulder. So remember Alita in your prayers as well. And of course, Walter Sampson. Do you all have any prayer requests that you'd like to talk about this morning?
Our country.
Absolutely.
You know, we probably should continue to remember the Lord. And remember Emmitt when he tries to teach this morning, because I tell you, he's been...
Emmitt tells me that Dolores is on the way to recovery. She's feeling a lot better. So
Doing a lot better, it's just still not 100%. Had a week.
So remember Dolores. Any others this morning? Tony?
Sister Ginger and coworker Julie, they're still going. Julie just finally got to start her treatment for her cancer.
What kind of cancer was that, Julie? What do you remember?
Colon cancer. Colon cancer.
Oh. So remember Ginger Petite
Yep.
and Julie, was it Nelson?
No, one's a coworker.
Oh, okay,
Julie's your coworker.
okay.
She beat it 4 years ago, and she thought she did, and it came back.
Oh,
Hmm. Anybody else this morning?
Should be somebody else.
Okay, remember these people? Remember with Meredith family? Remember Anita Golden, Walter Sampson? I remember Dolores. Remember Ginger Petite, Julie Nelson. I've got something here. Oh, yeah. Remember our country in our prayer as well. Jim, would you lead us in our prayer this morning?
okay. Father, thank you so much for a beautiful New Year's Eve. Thank you for our class. Thank you for all your wonderful blessings. We pray that you send healing to Emmitt and Dolores and Alita and everyone on the prayer list, Father. We pray that you be with Emmitt as he brings the message this morning. And we pray, Father, for this great country. We're in a very dark time. And I pray, Father, that you fill Washington with your Holy Spirit, the White House, the Congress, the Supreme Court, and that your blood flow down the halls of all of these places. That everyone will look to you. And we pray, Father, for mercy for the West Virginia football team. In Jesus' name we pray.
Well, you know the Lord has a good sense of humor.
I know.
Oh, hey, Bob.
Created any of me.
Got a call from Roy the other day, and he just wanted to thank me for the birthday card, and talked about how he got so many birthday cards, and Pat and somebody from church came to visit, and he had a really nice birthday.
Good.
Mentioned he got his vaccination,
Great.
and
Great.
seemed to be in pretty good spirits, and not hard to understand. Sometimes he's kind of hard to understand, but he was,
Yeah, I talked to him a few days ago as well.
yeah.
Seemed like he was doing pretty well. All right. Without further ado, here's Emmitt.
Emmitt.
He's gonna take his coat off and stay a while.
Emma, you're 6 foot away, so you can take your mask down.
Okay. Okay.
Don't let him do what he wants to do.
Gotta get close to that microphone.
You about have to eat it.
Okay. Can you hear me okay? Yeah. You almost don't need a microphone right here. It's for, you know, a couple things that came to my mind whenever Bob was talking. I work with, we call him Dickie Meredith. I worked with Dickie for 20-some years, and I will have to say this: he was a man that gave a good testimony. He conscientious in his work. Just a good man to have if he was working always right on the job. Hardly ever worked any overtime, but would work if they really needed him, you know. And when you mentioned about Olita falling, you know, I guess it was, I'm not sure when it was. It could have been this morning or yesterday, or I just kind of just lost my balance, and I caught her, you know. It was like, and I turned and looked at where I would have fallen. Well, she's a good bit older than me, but it's like I'm catching up. You know, catching up with this. So, but it's good to be back. Thank you all for your prayers, and continue to pray for Dolores. And you know, I thought when I realized this was the last day of the year, 2020. Wow, you know. So I thought, well, you know, you gotta just kind of address that. And so a little bit different. I think it's a different type of lesson. Can you all still hear me okay? Anita back there, can you hear me? Yeah. You try? Well, if that makes much difference, but
Yeah.
get this up here. I thought maybe we might just use this being the last day of the year, 2020, quite a year. Y'all remember, there used to be a TV show called That Was the Week That Was. You all remember that?
I do remember that.
And I thought, maybe that would be a way to start. And if you all give me some feedback on this, to help me through this, and plus just to make it a little more, more interaction. I decided to pull up a news feed, which was challenging in itself, about significant events of 2020. Y'all can be thinking about this because I'm probably going to miss some that you all think is important, and please feel free. And if I get something off, then correct me, because what I found out, among other things, is that a lot of this news feed that you read, it may not be exactly the same news, but you'll get a little different perspective, And so, tongue in cheek, if I mess up, just correct me on this. But I just thought I'd go back over this because we got 2021 coming up. Let's see. I'd like to get some feedback on that. What you think? What's your view? How do you think 2021 is going to play out, possibly? So with that, it seemed to be a stormy year. Would we agree on that? I mean, it kind of started out, if I use this first, there was some of this stuff I had forgotten. You may have too. Wildfires, first of the year, do you remember that? It was burning the West down 47 million acres, 34 deaths, according to this news feed. I'm going to skip a few of them here because after I wrote them down, I'm like, that's not really that significant. Prince Harry and Meghan quit. Like that. We'll scratch that one. COVID. We got to talk about COVID. That seems to be possibly, I don't know, the election kind of threw that in there. That's been pretty crazy. But you almost like the number one news story would be the COVID. It started back, and so the government then decided what? We got to shut down. We got to lock this place down to keep people from everybody from dying. With that, you end up with essential workers and non-essential workers. And I don't know if you all are still working any, but created tremendous hardship on a lot of people. My old barber over in Chesapeake was deemed non-essential, and one man barber shop. He never did really. He told me one time how much he made. I think it was like $25,000 a year. He said that's all he needed, And but then whenever that $25,000 starts coming in, he didn't have a lot of money. A lot of hardships was created by this lockdown. I was deemed essential, and so I actually worked a little bit. But then when you got all these other businesses shut down, it's kind of hard to find something some work for you. So, but anyway, we got the lockdown. Toilet paper shortage. Somebody figure that one out for me here. Stock market crash made me think of Marvin. We was actually talking about this when it first happened there. We were like, man, you had the stock market crash early on. Shortly thereafter, Trump was impeached by the House. So we have that. That was pretty significant. Shortly thereafter, we have he's acquitted by the Senate. Throw that away. So then George Floyd was killed, and we know what the results of that. We had riots all over the country. We had Antifa stepping up. And if you read, that was some of them that you got some really different, views on that. So we all have our prejudices, don't we? I mean, I just have to admit it. You know, they're just. I have my own opinion on some things. You know, riots all over the country. Defunding of police was in Minnesota or some of the places. I can't remember exactly. It was defunding. You got some capitulated to the what I would call the mob attacks by kneeling. Others had record gun and ammo sales. You can get two views on this. One is as law-abiding citizens prepare to defend themselves, but you can get a different view on that. Murder hornets. Remember that? I think they found one up in Washington. More wildfires in mid-August. Ruth Bader Ginsburg death. So what's remind me, we had a state hero. Chuck Yeager died this year. It's kind of significant. But Ruth Bader Ginsburg died. Schools, man. What about the schools and all the things that went through with that? Quarantines, masks. Brexit. You know, there was a 2020 Olympic that was supposed to have went on this year. Amy Coney Barrett chosen to replace Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Stock market rebound. Hey. Biden, then the elections. Stormy year. Anybody want to add anything? Anything I missed?
Statues being torn down all over the country.
Statue. That's yeah. That was another one.
Marshall's football team really fell apart.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Statues defaced. Wanted to change the name of Columbus, Ohio, among other things.
Well, and another thing, you know, the COVID bill they passed, it only gave you $600, but in it said that all the Confederate statues were to come down. And I, you know, I have mixed feelings about the Civil War, you know, and I also, a lot of us had families to fight in the Civil War. Grandparents, great-grandparents, you know, and they did what they thought was right. And I just, you know, I hate the city. I mean, Thomas Jefferson and George Washington, I don't think they fought in the Civil War, okay? And but because they had slaves, you know, they're going to change them also. And you know, we just don't, you know, we haven't stood up for this at all.
I have to say, I was in Richmond, Thanksgiving. We live near Richmond many, many years, about an hour and a half away. And we drove through Richmond, and it was so sad. They had beautiful monuments. I mean, I know that they didn't necessarily win the war, but they were beautiful statues that was history. And I tell you, it almost brought me to tears to see where they tore down one and they had defaced and had graffiti over another beautiful, huge statue. And it was horrible to think that our country has come to that, where they would tear down something that was historical. I mean, these people were part of our history, and they should not be torn down and forgotten about.
Jim.
We're in a cultural war. The media no longer are news people, they're propagandists. The left wing are no longer progressives, they are ideologues. We are in an era much like Nazi Germany in the early 30s. A very, very dangerous thing to be in. By the way, there was a cartoon either this week or last week. I think it came from the Washington Post, but the printer in the Herald Dispatch had all these rats and Republican congressmen's names on the rats. Well, that's the same thing the Nazis called the Jews, and they had to be exterminated. That's very scary stuff going on.
which made it a little tricky when you go to pick a news feed to draw some information off it. You get that. Anyone else?
I'm agreeing with her that it's really, really sad that, you know, they're tearing down the statues because they're part of history. But being a West Virginian, it's really sad because if it weren't that we stuck with the North, we wouldn't be West Virginia. We'd still be part of Richmond.
Right.
A lot of people think we still are.
Yeah. Okay, I kind of struggled to find maybe a word or two to describe this year, stormy year. Disruptive seemed to fit. Man, talk about disruptive. So businesses question, are we glad it's over? I saw a cartoon about this guy had a pole and the door for 2021 was over here, you know. He had a pole and he's kind of hid, you know, maybe to push 2020. He's not so sure about 2021. So, so how about your view for 2021? Have you made any made any resolutions? Would you consider your view hopeful, optimistic, fearful, pessimistic, uncertainty?
Yes.
Uncertainty seems to
All of them.
be on the coming year. Our lesson, get to the lesson here today. You know, anytime I try to teach a lesson, and I actually think about you all, you know, I don't think there's anything I'm going to tell you all that you probably haven't already heard before. We get great teaching. But it is reminder. I think a lot of what I do, as far as the lessons, is reminder. I know I need it. I need to be reminded regularly. So I think this lesson, unnecessarily, I'm going to give you all some, you know, some great insights you've never heard before. But it's more, to me, it'd be more like a reminder. It seems to always be the case. And so I've got a key point here, and that is that there'll always be storms in our life, right? Yeah, you're either in one, how's it go? You're going out of one, or you're getting ready to go into one, or I forget now just how that fit. But there's always going to be storms in our lives. Today, I would like to look at two men, if you would, that went through storms in their lives. One of them in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 14. We'll turn to that. Very familiar. You all want to know all about this one. Again, another one, King Jehoshaphat in 2nd Chronicles, I believe that started in chapter 17. Maybe not so familiar, but I'd like to point out their responses as they dealt with particular storms in life. You all, you definitely already know the first one, and be reminded of the second one. So we'll look at just what they focused on. I got a video which I get regularly for safety for the truck riders. You know, we get this safety all the time. Number one, and you all probably know this, you know what the number one cause now of accidents is? Come on.
Fall asleep.
What?
Texas.
Distracted driving.
Yeah.
You know, it can be texting, it can be, you know, all these other things. Number one, distracted driving. Get their focus off the road. I saw one just recently about 8 seconds. How far a truck can go in 8 seconds, the damage that it can do. And so distractions, distracted driving. So we're going to look at how the focus of a couple of these men right here, and maybe talk about that as they were going through a particular storm. So let's look at Matthew chapter 14. Equipment issues up here. And if you've looked at it, it's the story of Well, the context is right after Jesus feeds the 5,000. And he then, if you look at this, in verse 22, chapter 14, immediately made the disciples get into a boat, get into the boat, and go before him to the other side while he dismissed the crowds. And after he had dismissed the crowds, he went up on the mountains to pray, on the mountain to pray. And when evening came, he was there alone. But the boat by this time was a long way from the shore, from the land, beaten by the waves. I don't know if you've ever been out on which is like a sea, and had the waves. That happened last summer. Fortunately, I had my son Emmitt, who was kind of a brute, with me, and saved us and was able to get us off the edge of the ocean there while we were trying to fish. So they were beaten by the waves, so the waves was against them. So Mark mentions that, how they were trying to work across the Sea of Galilee. In the fourth watch of the night, which is going to be about somewhere between 3 o'clock, maybe 6 o'clock in the morning, Jesus came to them walking on the sea, walking on the water. But when the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were terrified and thought he was a ghost. So they cried out in fear, as we would too, no doubt. But immediately Jesus said to them, "Take heart, it is I, do not be afraid." And now, Peter is looking at Jesus, and I guess he believes him when he says, "It is I," obviously believes him. And he says, "Lord, if it is you, command me to come to you on the water." And what does Jesus say? Come on. So Peter actually gets out of the boat and walks on the water and has come to Jesus. My question with the point of this lesson, of this verse, where's Peter's focus? What's Peter focusing on?
Jesus.
Peter's got his focus on Jesus. And what is he able to do? He's able to walk on the water. He's able to basically overcome the storm, if you will, in that aspect of it. So he walks on the water and he comes to Jesus. But when he saw the wind, what happened? What happened to Peter's focus?
He got distracted.
He changed his focus, didn't he? He answered the text, if you will. He answered the text. That's a metaphor, Jim. He changed his focus. So that you're driving along and your focus is on the road and stuff. When he saw the wind, he became afraid, began to sink. He cried out, "Lord, save me." And what a thought, when Jesus would actually reach out and grab a hold of me. I thought about that. What would it feel like to have Jesus just grab you and just pulled you right up, took hold of him, and then he says, "Oh, you little faith, why did you doubt?" When he got into the boat, the wind ceased. So he helps him back out of the storm and into the boat. And those in the boat worshiped him, saying, "Truly, you are the Son of God." And a very similar story over in Mark about this, as we see what happens when we're in the storm, and Peter took his eyes off Christ, and then they said, I think there's maybe the other one says, or maybe a different time when he says, "What sort of man is this that even the wind and the seas obey him?" So remember, that's the first one. Peter, we're going to see, we're going to always be going through storms. 2021, uncertainty. I kind of quizzed Dolores since she wasn't coming. I quizzed her, and I think uncertainty was probably the best term for her. So as we go through these storms, what's going to get us through this storm? I think as a church that we really weathered this storm this year fantastic. I don't know if you were at the business meeting when we talked about the different reaches by the social media. There may not be a lot of people here. They gave some numbers. I don't know how they figured that out, but a lot of people are being reached through through YouTube and all of these other different ways. So, but to keep our focus correct, keep our focus on Christ as we go through this uncertain time. Let's get back over. Oops, lost the page. Let's get back over to 2nd Chronicles, to another story. You know, one of the kind of the side views on this is I went through this, King Jehoshaphat.